Fox host Greg Gutfeld sparked some controversy, and you can see the headline here in Mediaite. Greg Gutfeld calls for civil war because, quote, elections don't work, in bizarre rant. So what you're going to see here is he's responding to, I think it was in Philadelphia, where there was some looting that happened at like an Apple store or something, and he's going to use that to springboard into this wider rant. Let's listen.
This is called a criminal mulligan, right? But only certain people get criminal mulligans. And January 6 protesters, they don't get criminal mulligans, and here's why. They're the oppressor, right? So the oppressed get criminal mulligans. The people that are complaining, like us, we're actually oppressors, and we're losing power, so that's why we're upset. I just got a job at MSNBC.
Okay, all right, let me just pause here real quick. For the people who looted the store, number one, I, of course, think they should be arrested. Number two, I think they will, and I think they'll face time, right? Whatever's happening right now, I think that will be the case, okay? So that's the first point. The second point is he's trying to make the two-tier justice system. He's trying to make the Trump argument that, like, they're so unfair to Republicans, bro. That's the problem, bro. Okay. If anybody got multiple criminal mulligans, it was Trump. Look at the classified documents case. He was asked to turn over the documents, and he balked, and he basically swatted them aside, or turned some over but didn't turn all of them over, was told, hey, man, you got to turn them all over. He still didn't do it. He was shuffling it around from room to room in Mar-a-Lago and destroying the security footage of him doing it. He was given like over a year to return the documents, and he didn't return the documents. If anybody was getting a criminal mulligan, it was Trump. Because anybody else with that high-level, top-secret, classified, sensitive documents, nuclear documents, things of that nature, the second that the FBI and the DOJ and all these people learned, oh my God, he's got these things, they would have arrested him immediately. Trump got multiple criminal mulligans. So nothing could be further from the truth. If anything, of course, the criminal justice system is more biased against poor people. They throw the book at you. It's more biased against people of color. Look at the drug war statistics. They throw the book at you. But he flips it like, oh, it's biased against Republicans. Jesus Christ, man. It's so counterfactual. Let's continue.
So let's compare the rights between criminals and victims. Okay, the criminals, they get a mulligan. They get to steal up to $900 worth of stuff. They can loiter, sleep, and shoot up in public areas, including playgrounds. They can loot and burn and call it social justice. They can pile up dozens of arrests and never do time. Meanwhile, what about us? Well, we have to change our lives to accommodate risk wherever we go. We have to move out of cities for the sake of the safety of our families and our own safety. That's what's happening. We're being driven out of cities by the oppressed.
Jesus Christ. God, they're scared of their own shadow. They're scared of their own shadow. We can't live in cities because of the crime. That's so hyperbolic.
Turn to my imperfect analogy from yesterday. We had a war over slavery. We knew slavery was inhumane and immoral, but somehow we couldn't solve slavery peacefully. It was an evil. But one side refused to acknowledge that it was evil because it was too big of an admission for them to make. Doesn't that feel that way now? That this defiant refusal to reverse this decline argues against the survival of a country. What does that leave you with? It leaves you with you need to make war to bring peace, because you have a side that cannot change, because then that means an admission that their beliefs have been corrupt all the time. So in a way, you have to force them to surrender.
What is he babbling about? So the Civil War was necessary because one side wouldn't acknowledge that slavery is wrong, so you needed force to put them in their place so that they know for sure slavery is wrong and we're not going to allow it. And is the argument now that we need a civil war because Democrats won't acknowledge crime and stop the crime problem? Is that the argument? I'm seriously asking. It's a little bit confusing, but I think that's what he's getting at. Now, of course, what he won't tell you is there are plenty of examples of, Democratic prosecutors, for example, going after Fannie Willis's whole record. Now she's going after Trump. good, by the way, because he is a criminal. But her whole thing was going after violent criminals and gang members, and that's how she made a name for herself. And so this whole notion of like, well, Democrats are just really soft on crime. Republicans are tough on crime, and maybe we need a civil war to really show people that, like, hey, man, crime is wrong. Which, by the way, again, what's so hilarious is you're arguing you're the tough on crime people when it's like unanimous with the majority of the party saying, I don't care about Trump's 91 crimes. I'm still going to support him. So maybe you're not as tough on crime as you think. They're like, oh, we're tough on crime except for Trump's 91 crimes. Those don't count. Except for gun crime, because we're so pro-Second Amendment, we'll overlook, like, psychotic people having guns. They're not even in favor of red flag laws, which would take guns away from people who are clearly having a mental breakdown and about to do a mass shooting. War crimes, too. We're tough on crimes except war crimes, because when we do war crimes, that's awesome and we support it. So you're not really tough on crime. Give me a break. It's not like, Republican prosecutors were going after the Wall Street criminals in 2008 for doing fraud as a business model. None of them did that. Jesus Christ.
I tried that once.
Or we have an election.
I had to go to a doctor.
Election. Yeah.
No, elections don't work. We know that. We know they don't work.
They do work.
Look what we have. Look what we have.
but
We had a moderate president, and we have crime exploding everywhere. We had a Democrat president promised that he was going to be moderate, promised that he was going to unite the country, and now we have a terrible education system, we have no border, we have crime everywhere. Every facet of society is in peril and in chaos because our elections don't matter.
Jesus Christ, he's going full nihilist. My God. Elections don't matter. And by the way, literally everything he says there is totally untrue. We have an open border. How many times do we have to go through this? Biden kept in place Title 42, which was a Trump-era policy. He kept in place Remain in Mexico for a long time, which was a Trump-era policy. Now there are reports he's green-lighting a 20-mile border wall in a high-traffic area in Texas. What are you talking about? The full nihilist. By the way, did it ever occur to him, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to say these things about how we need a civil war and elections don't work to an audience that's already been primed to be extremist, to an audience that was primed a couple years back to do the, January 6th attempted insurrection? Hey, maybe I shouldn't be, like, glorifying war and violence and saying elections don't work. But hey, you know what? There's one other potential thing that might happen as a result of him saying this, which is more Republican nihilists who think that their voting just doesn't matter. So on that front, and this is what Trump brought this about, too, for a long time. It's like, don't do the mail-in voting, it's fraudulent, it's rigged. And that hurt Republicans. They definitely helped them to lose because they don't believe in mail-in voting. They don't have as many days to vote. They only show up on election day if they show up at all. And the same thing might happen with Greg Gutfeld. So if you're going to make more Republican voters nihilistic, pessimistic, unwilling to even get off the couch to go cast a vote for their politicians, maybe we should be thanking him. Maybe we should be thanking him. But this sort of hyperbolic stuff just on, like, this is the stuff you would expect to see among, like, the dregs of alternative media and independent media and new media. Like, this is the sort of stuff you would expect. Elections don't matter. Nothing even matters, man. Nothing matters, bro. Maybe civil war will happen, dog. Like, that's what you'd expect to see on garbage new media networks. But it's Greg Gutfeld, and it's on Fox News in the middle of the day. So, I don't know, man. God, these people are so unhinged. They're so goddamn unhinged. And they live in such like a cartoon version of reality. It's laughable. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.